Cam Robinson is the Director of Film Scouting, Director of Content for Elite Prospects, typically on Tuesdays, but thank you for moving down a day of the week. Cam, how are you?
Doing well, boys. Got off a good early morning skate here, ready to talk some hockey.
Fantastic. Nils Höglander, gone 8 to 10 weeks for the Vancouver Canucks. How does that affect the club?
That's a hit. You know, we had some expectations for him. He was looking good in camp, and you know, after a really a struggled season last year, coming off of a really strong season, we were hoping to see kind of the light at the end of the tunnel for him to really kind of solidify himself as like, hey, I'm a top 9 player, and maybe I'm a top 6 player legitimately on this team. And so 8 to 10 weeks, that hurts, but as the old adage is someone goes down, that's just another opportunity for somebody to step up. And there are some players still on this roster, cuts are coming yet, but have now an opportunity to make this club because of that and really show that they belong in the NHL too. So opportunity.
Who do you think stands to benefit the most?
Well, I mean, it's difficult to argue that Braeden Cootes hasn't done enough to this point to be like, now there's another roster spot available. It's like, he certainly has the inside track on that. But, Räty, we've got Baines, you got Karlsson, we got these guys that you don't want to lose on waivers. I think Max Sasson probably slips below that. Niels Alman is probably a send down. And then Kravtsov is probably a send down too. But maybe, just maybe, this opens up a window for Kravtsov to have a strong finish to camp and maybe sneak out a roster spot as either it's 12 or 13 or 14th forward, depends on how they want to work it.
For Cootes, I've been saying you have to search your soul here if you're Canuck brass and determine, are you just keeping him for the 8-game look, 9-game look, or do you legitimately think he's playing games for you in February? And if you don't think he can play games for you in February, he just played a pretty stacked Oilers lineup. I would guess the next 2 games, the final 2 games of the preseason, pretty stacked, normal-looking, deeper NHL lineups. Like, if you're just looking for the kid to take away, oh, this is NHL speed, I think you will have accomplished that by the end of the preseason. Do you really need to block one of the NHL pros, or AHL pros for that matter, for the sake of keeping them around for another 2.5 weeks?
It's an interesting thing, and you're right. They do have to search their souls because at the end of the day, you also you want it to be merit-based, right? The decisions have to be merit-based. And so sometimes waiver eligibility, junior eligibility, they definitely come into play on this. But if you're going to look at this kid at the end of this and be like, you know what, we're sending you back to junior without NHL games so that we don't lose Linus Karlsson on waivers, or we don't lose Archie Baines on waivers. That's not the message you want to send in the room. And this kid has clearly outplayed those guys through up to this point. But you have to manage assets and you have to manage the long-term expectations for him. And so I had this argument with a really intelligent person just yesterday who said, I think Cootes should be in the NHL and should probably be there all season. And I still think, as great as he's been, you still see some of those junior habits, which is to be expected from an 18-year-old playing at this level right now. Some of those things, the couple goals have been a bit lucky, but even beyond that, he has been good. He's speedy, he's heady. But you want to maximize his offensive upside. Now, Seattle, the Thunderbirds, they're not going to be a good team again this year. They're going to be slightly better. He'll have a little bit more support off the rush than he did last year, but it's not like he's going to go back and he's playing for Spokane and he's going to be able to put up 100+ points and really, fly in a high octane system. But you do want him to experiment that. And so is it best served to have him play, single digit minutes throughout the season, not getting special teams time, just not really advancing offensively just so that you have this 18-year-old in the NHL? Or is it best served to send him back, let him run as wild as he can down there, play for the World Juniors, hopefully, and then next year he can go AHL or NHL. And now the options are wide open for him. And I continue to believe that the best thing for him is to get some NHL ice here because he's earned it, and you give that to him, and then you send him back and you say, we'll see you next year and you'll be ready.
Yeah, and typically some teams meet out those 8 or 9 games until it's time for the teenager to go to the World Junior Camp at the beginning of December or the end of November. Here's the thing, and I've seen you write on this for Elite Prospects Camp. This is an absolutely stacked Canadian team at the forward position.
He might not make that team.
Well, in fact, like when TSN did their preseason draft rankings and did their ditty on the World Junior team, they not only did not have Cates on the team, they did not have him as an on-the-bubble forward. Like, that's how good the forward group for this Canadian World Junior team is. So you tell me, do World Junior considerations for a guy who may not actually make it. Do they come into play at all when you're making this call as the Vancouver Canucks, Cam?
I don't think that part of it will come in too much into the decision. I think it has to be, a holistic, a look at the wide lens, not even just a 2-week sprint at Christmas. That said, if they did want him to have that experience, then the quickest way to do it is to keep him in the NHL for a while. Because as we know, if you're getting sent back, you're a walk-on on that team. Like, it's automatic. But if he does, even if he plays, the 9 games and they spread him out a little bit, and then they send him back and he's still coming from his junior club, I think that'll go a long way in Hockey Canada's mindset when they're deciding who they want to have. That this guy has played NHL minutes already. He looked good, and then he's back in junior. Well, we can certainly use that as our number 3 center. And I think that he can, even if he goes back right now and he plays a whole season in Seattle and doesn't have gaudy point totals, I still think he can earn a spot because he's so speedy, he's so heady, and he can play such a strong two-way game. But this is a difficult Team Canada team to crack for sure.
Is the counterintuitive thought about the Thunderbirds not being that great a team, and albeit a little bit improved from, are the Canucks wary of he's going to be put in opportunities, but he's also not going to be playing with super high-end players. Is he going to develop, that sort of vision and stuff when people aren't going to be thinking at his level and in the right places and all that sort of stuff? You can argue both ways, I think.
He is the only drafted forward on the Seattle Thunderbirds.
And that is the argument that was pushed back at me, is that what is he truly going to gain back in Seattle? Because it's not like he's going to be getting to play with a Mathis Preston or a Berkeley Catton or top end prospects like this.
Right.
And so, he is the captain of that team. He'll be played in all situations, but yes, it won't be at a very, very high level around him. Right. I do think that after a point a game season, though, as a draft eligible, he's a young player still, is that there's just another level that he can explore at the junior level with creativity and have that freedom to take those chances at a bit of a slightly lower pace where you can make a mistake and it doesn't come back to haunt you all the way. Where if you are in the NHL and you try something creative and it burns you and you're 18, well, guess what? You're in the press box the next game.
We've made headway in the CBA for next year with the 19-year-olds being allowed to play. I think you could have expanded it, guys, for a bigger thing of, if you've played 20 NHL games, you are eligible to be sent down to the American League. Beef it up a little bit so that the Canucks would be forced to keep him around for 20 games. But at that point, I think every NHL team would say, okay, this guy is clearly above the junior level of play. We should be able to send him down, regardless if he's 18 or 19. If you've played 20 NHL games, you go back to the American League or, dealer choice.
Yeah, I like that. And because, lots of teams, they look at it, it's like the 9 game that's the threshold. But realistically, sometimes it's the 40 game mark, right? Is that you're going to burn a year off his RFA, but it's like, that's okay. You can't slide that year anymore, but the year off the RFA is at the 40 game mark. So yeah, I like that little hybrid. You should have got in those CBA negotiations.
Yeah, not to be.
Yeah, they didn't invite you, hey?
No.
Believe it or not, they needed goals even before the Höglander injury, so Jonathan Lekromacki, bro. I mean, you tell me, Cam, who do you think has a better shot and release on the Vancouver Canucks than Jonathan Lekromacki?
Elias Pettersson, when he's feeling it, is probably the only guy on this team. Besser has flashed that, early on in his career, less so in more recent years. But on pure finishing ability, it's hard to argue anyone over Lekromacki other than Pettersson.
Yeah,
and that's going to pay the bills, right?
Love the contorted body too on the late goal the other day too, right? He wasn't just stand still. All conditions were perfect for him to score that goal. He had to twist his body to get that one-timer away, and that's a goal scorer.
So the question is do you not have to find room for that guy, particularly when you could very well argue you have an opening on the power play, or at least the second power play unit?
I think that he's shown enough, and I think that the coaching staff has tipped their hand enough to say that is very likely, right? He's been attached to Hedl so much throughout the preseason and camp. Hedl's looked pretty good as well too.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. Right? Yes, which is big news for Vancouver. Like, that is huge for them if he can play well and he can stay healthy. But so then you have a Vander Kane on that other side. So now you've got the jam. You've got a big body center still in the middle, and then you can support Lekromacki a little bit to be that finisher, because he is going to have to hunt for soft areas. He's not going to be able to do the digging himself, so he needs to be surrounded by those type of players. And so if that's your second line, it's not the best second line in the league. There's a lot of question marks around it, but if it can find chemistry and if you can get Lekromacki to feel hot, like he could go out and score, 20 goals this season, that would be massive for the club and a real big stepping stone for him moving forward.
Sample size is small for everybody right now, but Karlsson and Räty came in with some expectation for this year too, because they looked like they were the guys most likely to make the permanent jump. Should we be concerned that they sort of haven't grabbed headlines? Räty's got a couple of points, but they're not, crazy highlight reel sort of moments. What do you think of those two guys?
Yeah, Räty probably won't ever grab too many highlight reel moments. It's just the type of player he is, but I did expect more from him. And Karlsson, too, being such an older player. Both those guys and Max Sasson and Arshdeep Bains, there's a job available and no one's really stepped up and grabbed it as of yet. And so there's only a couple days left for someone to really do it. And if nobody really does, I think Räty just kind of gets it by default because if he plays the middle of the ice, he's so good in faceoffs.
His goal was nice. I shouldn't downplay his goal. He ripped that goal.
Sure.
That was a pretty decent shot.
Guys.
Yes. Yeah, but I do think that he probably has the inside track just, because of that center ice position. Sasson, I believe, can still go up and down on waivers, right? And then Bains and Karlsson just haven't really done too much to really justify it.
Yeah. I've been wondering if the failure to get that second line center that Rutherford talked about, Cam, not only remains a glaring hole in the Canucks lineup, but also the secondary byproduct there. It didn't push Räty, right? Mm-hmm. You pretty much gifted a kid a spot because of your lack of depth at center, which all the more reason why I think the Cootes performance here in this training camp should be good for Räty.
Yeah, without question, because now all of a sudden it's like Räty's looking at being like the fifth center, right? The extra guy, the 13 guy, as you got Bluger down the middle and then you got Cootes. And so one of those
or
guys.
Or a job share at the very least.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. At least for the first, few weeks of the season anyways. But you're right. It didn't give him that opportunity to be like, I don't have a job at this camp. I need to go earn it. Where he came in being like, I'm probably the fourth line center, even if I don't play all that well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Luke Hughes is re-signed in New Jersey. It is a long-term deal, 7 years. It actually takes him beyond Jack's contract in New Jersey. What says you? How do you think this affects the price of tea, if at all, with the Canucks' efforts to keep Quinn?
I mean, let's be honest here. New Jersey, they definitely bent. That was the two sides were at a bit of a stalemate, and New Jersey was the side that bent. I had heard, previously that the Devils were hoping to get that number to start with a 7 when they first came in on a long-term deal, and so now it's a 9. So we can see which side won on that one. I think it's a kind of another check mark on assessing talented defensemen that maybe don't have the greatest brains. That's often it still works out okay. And he's an example of that too. And I think he's going to be a good player for them. Now, how that impacts Vancouver and Quinn Hughes, I don't think it does too much. I think that if he went with a 5-year deal and he set himself up to be a UFA the same year as Jack, maybe there could have been some inference there that, hey, all these guys could go UFA at the same time in 2030. I think it still remains is that if Vancouver can prove to Quinn that this is a viable contender moving forward, that he will give it a good long thought. And maybe they have to do what Minnesota just did with Kaprizov, right? And they have to be like, blank check. What do you want?
So I was going to ask you,
right?
Can you just outprice the Devils? Okay, they've got some big contracts. Can you just go silly money for Quinn and say, yeah, you can do that. You can go join your brothers.
Depends what's more important for him. But
I mean, $2 million extra per year is pretty significant.
And 2 extra years that they could give too, right? They could still give Quinn 8, where the max he could get would be 6 on the open market, and when he goes UFA too. So we're talking big numbers, tens of millions of dollars potentially that they could outbid another team like New Jersey. So I think that'll play a role, but I think more importantly, it's going to play is that are we moving in the right direction? Can I win a Stanley Cup here? Because these elite talents now have so much more power at their disposal that they want to win championships, and their careers are short, and so I don't blame them.
Yeah, honestly, if the negotiation was going on now, or there seems to be a concerted effort by some players, their representatives, maybe even the PA, to push the envelope as far as possible, I might feel better about it. We'll see where that is in July of next year. But I mean, I had a friend text me yesterday. He was a hockey fan, but isn't, who went, Kaprizov for $17 million? What the hell? What is McDavid and Eichel worth? And I went, well, I think that's the point. Is that for Kaprizov to push Minnesota to that level? Look what Eichel and McDavid are going to get, and every star hockey player thereafter. I mean, as we've been talking about for years, Blake, I mean, the hockey player salaries have lagged behind their counterparts in other sports.
Who'd you rather have, Kaprizov or Pasternak?
Oh,
Or Kucherov.
Wow. I mean, yeah, I probably, I would say
Kucherov for me
as well. Yeah.
For me, he's number
on
3 on
age.
that list.
Kaprizov.
Just because of the injuries too, right? Like he averages like 60 a season, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of hurts. That knocks him out, but on talent alone. Yeah. But for Minnesota, and I tweeted it too. What's Bill Guerin going to do? Right? You either pay the man his money, or you fold up shop, right? Like
exactly. No, they had no option.
Right.
I mean, this was the perfect place for a player, his representative, and the PA looking on to exert pressure. They could not lose him, right? And the other happy byproduct here is like it's a winger who doesn't exactly he's not box office around the league.
No.
Right.
And it's a small market that knows it'll be a long while before they get somebody of that skill level back. So
Plus, I've seen Kucherov and Pasternak to a lesser degree do it in the playoffs. We haven't seen that as much from Kaprizov. Okay, lastly, Cam, and here's why Cam is just the best at what he does. So I'm going through my timeline, and I see your happy face, and then I go, wait a second, what's he going on here? Mike's going to bring it up. Cam is out there scouting 14-year-olds. These are 2011 birthdays, Cam. And you're telling me that right now here in Metro Vancouver, we've got 2 absolute stud 14-year-olds that hopefully the Canucks will be able to draft in 4 years' time. Tell us about these 2 young men and what prompted you to cut this video yesterday on social.
Yeah, so they're playing U15 prep there at Yale, and they have 19 points. The 2 of them each have 19 points through 4 games. And so, yes, it's a 4-game sample size, but I went off to say like Cole Reshny is the all-time leader in points per game at that level. Dylan Gunther, Connor Bedard, Logan Stankoven, they're all in the 3-point per game mark. And these kids are up there pushing 5. And now one of those kids, Parker McMillan, he's 14 years old. He's 6'2", 181 pounds. Like they are feeding him that good chicken, right? He's getting the good stuff out there. Now, granted, they obviously some blowout games that they've been playing, but it's really interesting to see too, is that the youth hockey level, the interest in it too, is just spiking. Whenever I do a video like this on social media, on TikTok or Instagram, it finds that all these kids find it and their friends tag each other, and they're having a great time. I played against him. Oh, my brother plays against him. He's good. So yeah, these are 2029 draft eligibles, 2011 borns. And I was just thinking to myself, so these kids weren't around for the Crosby golden goal. They probably weren't born for the Canucks playoff run, right? Like what is like
moms were pregnant for the stanchion goal from Kevin Bieksa.
Right?
Moms were pregnant for that.
I felt my arthritis kicking in. Like I feel older than the hills talking about
what's the second kid's name? It's Parker McMillan and
Tegan Derniski.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back when I did a weekly amateur sports page for my hometown Bugle, get as many names and schools in there as possible. Then they'll
give them the shout out. Yeah.
Anyways, and you said there's a NHL scouting director who got in touch with you over this. He's already looking at these kids.
Yeah, I got the text that I've been following this age group for a while now. I was like, you have not been, and we had a good laugh just because his kid was a 2011, so he's well aware of the high end.
There we go.
Yes.
Extenuating circumstance.
Yes, there we go. Okay. So we will look for Misters McMillan and
Derniski.
Okay.
Yeah.
Coming to a rink near you at 5 points per game. Cam, thanks for this. Till next week.
Cheers, boys. Thanks.